the Hadal project, the Time Stories Revolution, the Hadal project. This is a new implementation of the Time Stories system, a game that came out a couple of years ago, very successful because of its very strong commitment to storytelling. Yes, it is a game that is scenario-based, and you can't really replay the scenarios once you have reached the ending, unless you're trying to maximize and optimize your result. But the real enjoyment of the game comes from discovering the story, from unraveling the different secrets in each scenario, from solving the puzzles, and once you have done that, the magic is over. Now, this is similar to that. It still has the general idea. What is different is that this is not a simple scenario in the system. When you had boxes like this in the system, that usually meant that you took out the main game, set up the board, and then you would add the elements from a scenario. This looks at first sight like a scenario box, which it is and it isn't, because it is a standalone game. It is a scenario with a single story, fairly long story in different chapters, so you can think of it as something you play over a period of time, maybe in different sessions. But all that you need to play the game is in the box, so it is also a standalone idea, so you don't have to take out multiple boxes, and so it's also easier to set up. Everything you need to play is in here, so also if you never played Time Stories before, you don't need to buy the base set. This one is a single specific adventure. And as I do with games that have a strong narrative feel, that have a lot of spoilers, I'm not going to show it to you. I'm not going to show you the game. You're not going to get to see what's in the box, because there could be spoilers. Even the counter sheet, you're told not to punch out the counters and not to look at the back of the counter sheet unless you're instructed to do so. The decks of cards that make the game, unless, again, you shouldn't look at them until you're told to do so. So, not much I can show you really. What you get to see is this. There you go. You get to see this image. If it's a spoiler, then so be it. You just got a spoiler. Because this image also allows me to give you a sense of the main mechanic, which is in the game, which is a cooperative game, and can also be played solitaire. All players will be exploring different locations. Each location is formed by cards that are placed one next to each other, and they form a panorama like the one that you see here. And then as you play the game, you can interact with different areas of the location that you're exploring by flipping those cards face up. Suppose, fictionally, that you want to interact with this person here, then the part of the image that includes that person will be made by a card. You flip the card, and it's almost like you're zooming in, almost like a point-and-click adventure, because then maybe, again, fictional examples, the card, the other side is gonna show you that person up close facing you, and there are gonna be possible interactions there. We are in the future to tell you about the story. You're in the future and you're trying to figure out the antidote or the vaccine, the solution for a deadly pandemic. How timely. Now, it almost makes me wonder, these people do travel in time maybe? How did they know this? Or is it just a coincidence? Or was the game originally designed with another objective in mind and they retooled it, retweaked it? They kind of like changed a couple of things here and there to fit the deadly pandemic theme in it. That's, I don't know, it was pretty impressive and scary almost for a game that comes out in spring 2020. So, like in previous incarnations of the Time Story system, each player will control a character. Actually, you can have multiple characters per player. You can have a single player playing the game solitaire and controlling multiple characters. So there will be these characters controlled by the players. They are receptacles. They travel by projecting their mind into the mind of people that are in the location that you are visiting. Here you start in a scientific lab at the bottom of the sea, and you are investigating what's happening there, because the leading scientist that was looking for the cure for the deadly pandemic appears to have disappeared. He's nowhere to be found. You're looking for the scientist and you're looking for the cure. Where is it? So this is pretty much what I'm going to tell about the story, really, because if I tell you more, it's all spoilers, and you will want to find the joy of exploring different areas of the lab, each rendered through a panorama made by cards, like I show you there. Unlock new locations, unlock different areas, and then explore those. So, this is the general idea about the story. As for the mechanics, the game mechanics of the game are similar to the ones that you have in the original time stories. So if you know that system is going to be easy to pick up. But there are also a couple of other changes. It's not just that the scenarios stand alone. There are also different mechanics, different rules and things that you can do in the game. One thing, for example, is now you have an energy resource represented by shiny blue little stones, and that is what players will spend to be able to explore different locations, to participate to tests. So you spend those stones, that energy, to say contribute your abilities to pass a certain test. Tests are still similar to what you have in the original system, which is you're gonna have a test that says maybe it's like combat or technology, and players will trigger abilities, will use objects to produce points towards the difficulty of the test, and you need to match or exceed the threshold of the test. Maybe we're testing combat 9, and then by putting together points in that category from different sources, from the main character testing, other characters spending energy to contribute, then we're trying to get to 9 or higher after we draw a destiny card. So basically you want to go to 9, but then there's a destiny card that you draw from a deck of destiny cards that will modify that. Maybe it's a 0, +1, +2, -1, -2. So you can, if you go a certain number above the threshold of the test, then you're 100% sure that you're going to pass it. Sometimes it's also fun to chance it, because if you pass the test just right, then actually you usually get a bonus, and so that is interesting, that is fun. The main mechanic of the test remains the same, but again, you're spending this generic energy to contribute to the test. If you spend a lot of energy, then you need to take a reload, upload action in which you will get more of that energy, and basically depending on how many times you get to reload your energy, that will determine your level of victory or defeat. Another interesting new element is a deck of interaction cards. Each character has one. You're instructed not to look at them, blah blah blah. To give you a sense of what they do without spoilers, again, it's interaction cards. They almost work like conversation dialogue menus in video games. Maybe a certain character will want to talk to a scientist, and you're told, if you're talking to that scientist, look at card 11 of your interaction deck. Which means that if I have a certain character and I have a conversation with that scientist, my interaction card 11 may be different from another character having the same conversation with the same scientist, because the scientists may have different opinions about your characters. Maybe there is a different background, maybe there is a different history between the two of them, and maybe their history has a history. So actually that's very thematic, because you're trying actually you will want to read the background of your character, and so you will want to get a sense of how people will interact with that character. What are the kind of people that will find that character particularly nice, or maybe have some grudge against that character. So that's nice, because the standard non-playing character card says, if you're talking to the character, draw interaction card 11, say. But each playing character has a different deck of interaction cards. So that's fun, that's very thematic. Each character also has a card with specific things that have to do with their background. Again, I don't want to get there. But the way the characters are integrated in the story is pretty fun. That's for the main changes in the game structurally. Now, when it comes to the Hadal project, specific about this scenario, Well, before we get there, so the new changes mechanically in the system, I like them. I like this new time story system. I think I like it even better than the original one. It's not like, oh, in retrospect, I didn't like that thing. But I think the extra flexibility, the extra level of detail and thematic elements that you find here are really nice. To me, those are improvement upon the previous system. Not that I felt that I needed them when I played the game, but now I see this new version. I was like, huh, I think I like it even better. So that's great. I had fun playing the original time stories, and I like the new system that I got now even better. As for the Hadal project specifically though, as the scenario, I don't know, I have a little bit of mixed feelings. I wasn't blown away by the story, by the plot, by the twists, by the story itself. I have to be vague in general because that's how it goes here. But I don't know that this is the best possible story or scenario or plot to showcase the new elements of the system. I didn't find the story all that compelling. I didn't find the clues and the elements of the story all that cohesive, all that organic. What I like about a game that has a story, well, is if it works like a story. Say, Clue is not a great mystery because it's all put together procedurally and don't really have a sense of a building plot. You're not really thinking about, well, I saw a stain of blood there, what can it mean? And then I saw something else. That, oh, why was the character just, washing their clothes with a certain agitation? Were they trying to hide some blood stains and so on and so forth? You don't have you don't have that in a game that truly has a story. Then you're uncovering the elements and putting them together. I didn't think that I have all that much here. I didn't think like, oh, I see that element there and then there's a connection there. And so that means I have an incentive in looking at a certain thing because I figure something out. And that gives me another element that maybe gives a new meaning to something that I saw and then I want to go back, etc. I didn't have the sense of the elements of the story really building up one upon the other. There were a lot of cards, a lot of interactions that the card gave me something new, but didn't feel like it was part of a larger puzzle, was part of a larger construction. Almost like there were too many red herrings that I guess they gave more detail about the story world, but didn't really help build up an overarching narrative. It felt like, okay, this is something new, doesn't really feel like it adds to the story. It's a challenge because I have wasted some energy to look at that card, but, well, it just felt the story was a little flat in that sense, not again building like a cathedral story, more like one thing after the other. Oh, I think this thing could be useful later, and maybe it is, but a lot of stuff that we found wasn't all that useful later. It felt like there was just a lot of the elements of the story not really contributing to the overall plot. Again, the story didn't feel all that cohesive. I started playing the game together with my 9-year-old daughter Amelia, soon 10, and she enjoyed it to a point, but precisely since the story seemed to meander a lot, after a while she lost interest. Something happens, and she didn't like that, I didn't like that, and she kind of said, you know what, I don't know that I need to continue playing the game, and so I finished the story by myself, solitaire, but I almost felt it just because, well, I wanted to finish it. I was not all that gripping, all that exciting to me. So the Hadal project, I like a lot of the things that you see that have been done here in the time story system. I'm not too fond of this specific implementation of the system, but it made me curious. I want to see where the system goes next. I think there's a lot more that can be done with the system. It's not like, oh, this is a deal breaker, I don't want to play the system again. If anything, I really want to play the system more because I think the game system can do a lot more than the adventuring the Hadal project showcases, and so that's it. Mixed feelings about this specific implementation of the system, but very excited, still very excited about the system in general, and curious to see what the future holds and what we're gonna get in the system.